Hello, welcome to Monday night at Meraki Kava Bar. Here we are with our usual ongoing Monday night talk series. We're actually, I think, ending the series. This is our last Monday night for a while, other than our ongoing first Mondays that we usually do. But we're going to be ending the series tonight, actually, with a very special guest who is actually really new to the community. And I've asked her to come in and share a little bit about her professional work, but even a little bit maybe on hopefully her own personal connection with plant medicines. And actually, I think she recently had a psilocybin journey herself, so maybe she'll share a little bit of that for tonight. But I would like to introduce our speaker tonight. Nicole Berrios is a licensed acupuncturist and Chinese herbalist and certified shamanic practitioner. For an enlightenment talk on how ancient healing modalities can powerfully support the psychedelic path. So that's our topic this evening, and introducing Nicole here. But personally, I just wanted to share a little bit about my connection with Nicole. I met Nicole maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We both are part of a women's group, a women's circle down in the Tempe Chandler area. And at first I joined this women's group. It's called the Mom's Boss, and it's kind of networking with local moms who are trying to start their businesses right here in that local area. And that's actually where I met Nicole. She's an acupuncturist, and of course I'm a licensed massage therapist and doing counseling work. And one of the following years, I think we were actually in just a general women's, it's a 13 moon circle. And it's been such a beautiful opportunity to watch this woman who I consider a colleague, someone that I think we've been observing each other over the past few years, growing and evolving into medicine carriers, into actual shamanic practitioners. And I remember there was a particular share, I hope she doesn't mind a little bit of my sharing a circle, where Nicole was really stepping into her shamanism practice and struggling to what I personally even identify as kind of, sorry, a little water. What I know now is like imposter syndrome. You know, for those of us that are kind of starting new in a practice, it's like fake it till you make it, or keep trying, keep practicing, keep showing up. Sometimes I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm trying to listen to my intuition and my gut and my wisdom that I already have. And I just remember Nicole sharing one day that, she was finally really accepting her place in this leadership position as a shamanic practitioner, and I gave her a lot of well wishes, because I know what that struggle's like to really kind of step into this embodiment of health and well-being, because for me, it's walking the walk and not just doing the talk. And that's what I know for Nicole. I'm grateful that she's become what I hope is a friend and not just a colleague. And the way that she holds space is pretty incredible. And I don't give that credit lightly to those who are really great space holders, and Nicole is a really excellent space holder. And I actually invited her here tonight because I want to know more about her shamanic and acupuncture practice. It's one thing to be an acupuncturist, with Chinese medicine, and then it's a whole nother to actually have a shamanic practice. But what does that look like together? And then also supporting those of us working with plant medicines, pre and post care. How can some of these modalities support us even in our own self-care? So that's why I invited Nicole, just a little bit of my own personal share and how I'm connected to her and why I invited her this evening. And I'm so glad that she's kind of closing out our talk series. So if you'll help me to welcome Nicole, please introduce Nicole.
She really hyped me up there. Thank you. And yes, of course we're friends. I thought that was silly of you to even ask. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hold the mic up to my mouth. All right. So, hi everybody, my name is Nicole Berrios. I am, as Andrea said, a licensed acupuncturist and certified shamanic practitioner. I have notes to keep me on point, so we'll see how that goes. So, I have a private practice in Tempe, and I specialize in treating adults and kids. I work on kids, babies all the way to teens, and my specialty is stress and anxiety and like depression, like mental, emotional stuff. However, I work on all kinds of other things, you know, pain, menstrual issues, whatever people have going on, but really stress and anxiety is my jam. And so I kind of wanted to give just a little brief background as to like how I got into what I do. Because I wasn't a little kid thinking I want to be an acupuncturist. It kind of happened eventually. So I'm in my early 20s and I was having panic attacks. And at the time I had no idea what a panic attack was. I kind of thought that I was dying. If you've ever had a panic attack and don't know what it is, it feels like you're dying. So I go to the hospital, the doctors run all the tests. I get sent home with a clean bill of health and a prescription for Xanax. So basically I was fine, I was just stressed out. And so I was like, Xanax? I'm 23. I'm like, isn't that the stress medicine? Like, that's all I knew. I just knew that didn't seem like a very good fit for me personally. So that's really when my healing journey began. I wanted to like dive into why am I so stressed? Why am I panicking to the point where I feel like I'm dying? So I started exploring, doing all kinds of different modalities. This is how I stumbled upon acupuncture, just almost on accident. So I tried it. Never done it before, and it blew my mind. Not only did it alleviate the anxiety, but it also like resolved some other random health issues that I had been having, and I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I was like, I just got poked with needles, and like I feel so much better. Like this makes no sense to me, but I want to learn more. So I go to acupuncture school because, of course, I needed to go to acupuncture school after this. This is kind of how most acupuncturists get into it, is they have like a crazy experience. Kind of like psychedelics, honestly. And so I go to acupuncture school. I'm there for 5 years. It's a master's degree program. It honestly should be a doctorate degree, but that's a story for a different day. So I get my license 11 years ago this month, actually. So I've been licensed for 11 years now. I get into private practice. Actually, I was working in a community acupuncture clinic. So if you don't know what community acupuncture is, it's kind of like this big open room, people in a bunch of chairs, and like one acupuncturist kind of just does a treatment to everybody, like in succession. It's a lot of work. It's really taxing on the acupuncturist, and school didn't prepare me for this. I would leave my clinic shifts feeling super drained, and just like it wasn't sustainable for me long term. I knew that if I wanted to continue doing this, I needed to find something else to like just help me dealing with so much energy and empathy, you know, like being like really sensitive to just picking up on all the people's energy that I was working on. And so I started looking for other solutions. This is how I stumbled upon shamanism. So I kind of like what I did with acupuncture. I was just like, ooh, that's interesting. I want to learn more about that. So of course I went to shaman school. There's schools for it. The program that I did was online, and at the time it was called Shamanism 101. It's been rebranded since then, but it was an online program where you get paired with a mentor who's been through the whole program, and you basically do all of the lessons like under the mentorship, and you can't progress to your next lesson until your mentor gives you clearance to do so, because you're dealing with a lot of subtle stuff, you know. It's kind of like what you do with psychedelics, like you're tapping into something you're a part of it, but it's like a different level of reality. So like when you do this with shaman work too, and I did mine completely without any sort of any substances. Like they were really big on like just learning how to get yourself into a trance-like state without needing assistance. So I completed my training while I was working as an acupuncturist. It also took me 5 years to get through this training. Everything takes me 5 years apparently. So while the point that I wanted to, or the purpose of going to school to learn shamanism of all things, was I wanted help learning how to deal with the empathy, right? So I could continue doing my acupuncture practice, and I I got that out of the training. It didn't happen at all the way I expected it to. I kind of expected I would learn like some cool shielding technique or something. And that would solve all of my problems. But really what shaman work does, or shaman training does, is it forces you to like dig into your deepest, darkest shadow self, dig it all up so you can look at it and deal with all of your own baggage. It's not fun, it kind of sucks actually, which is why it's not for everybody. But I don't regret it at all, because like once you clear all that stuff up, then you're kind of like open to power yourself up. So that's really the point of shamanism, is to like empower you. That's how I learned how to get over the overactive empathy and sensitivity to other people, is you get powered up so that there's no room for anything else. Like you're full with your own inner wisdom, I suppose, for lack of a better way of describing it. So anyways, I got my certification to be a shamanic practitioner. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I studied something called core shamanism, so it's not affiliated with any particular lineage or any particular culture. It's kind of just like the essence of shamanic practice, which is kind of cool, because if you look at shamanic practices from all over the world, they all have their different flavors and their different styles, but ultimately they're kind of doing the same work. It's just like different ways of going about it. So I learned like the essence of what shamanic practitioners do. So I got my certification April of 2020. It was right in the middle of lockdowns actually. So my practice was closed that month that I got the certification. But when it opened back up, and by this point, I had a private practice. I still worked community acupuncture on the side while I was building my private practice. But I kind of like threw the shaman piece into it once I got the certification. I was so nervous the first session that I offered to somebody, because I was kind of just winging it. I'm like, okay, we're gonna take acupuncture and shamanism and like blend it together. Like, I don't know anybody else who does that. I think there might be someone in California and like one person in North Carolina that does something similar. So like, I'm kind of in a really small community. And so yeah, it was just winging it. But it actually wound up being really cool. And eventually I kept doing it and I found my stride. And so now it's just one of the signature things that I offer in my practice for people who want to do that. Some people come to see me just for acupuncture. Some come to see me for acupuncture and shamanic healing. They're both fabulous. Hold on. Okay, so I'm gonna backtrack just a tiny bit. So I mentioned like stress and anxiety is kind of like my specialty. So that's really what I focus on in my practice, is like getting people to get their nervous systems regulated, because when that happens, most other healing can happen once your nervous system is in a good place. And so oh, thank you.
That's your drink, right?
It is my drink.
All right.
There's the stool.
Thank you. It's just sitting there. Yeah, once you get the nervous system regulated, like immense healing can happen from that point. So I lost my train of thought. Yeah. Oh yeah, how this matters. Psychedelic work. Okay. Oh, because a lot of people will come to see me just for acupuncture, and when they're coming for that, I'm usually helping them to get calm and regulated. Some people come to see me for shamanic work because they heard that that's what I do and they're interested. And some people come for acupuncture and then they find out that I do shamanic work and they're like, ooh, that's interesting. And then other people think it's weird and they want nothing to do with it. So that's fine. I kind of meet people wherever they're at. But how this all kind of applies to psychedelics is, if you're having psychedelic experiences, like you're basically having shamanic experiences is what it is. It's just I kind of feel like this is part of why my shamanic training was like done without any sort of psychedelics or substances, because my mentor, like, they want you to be in control the whole time, like as much as possible. And there's a little lack of control that happens when you do psychedelics, which is kind of part of it. That's part of the magic, right? You have to learn how to let go. And so doing something like acupuncture, is, especially for regulating your nervous system, is very helpful for enhancing the psychedelic experience because it calms your nervous system. If you're dealing with stress and anxiety, it will help to kind of get that out of the way so that you can be really focused on whatever it is that you want to get out of your plant medicine experience. And then when you throw the shamanic piece in there too, honestly, I feel like the shamanic piece is really important because when you're doing psychedelics, you're accessing the spirit world kind of like you do when you're doing shamanic work. And it can help to power you up so that you're like less susceptible to bad trips or just, you know, interesting things happening to you during your experiences when you kind of don't really have control. So let's see. Hold, please. Yeah, so you can use acupuncture and shamanic work to like help with your experiences, to like prep you for it beforehand, and also to help with the integration piece afterwards. So like I said, if you've got, you know, stress, anxiety, or pain, or whatever, something like at the forefront of your mind, I know some people will go into plant medicine experiences because they want relief from those things, or they want a, you know, perspective shift, or whatever it is that you're looking to get out of it. These tools that I do help to enhance all of that, like to make your journeys have more punch, I suppose. And like I said, also just make it so that like whatever you have going on in the forefront can kind of like go away a little bit so that you're more open to the experience. But then I also feel like the integration piece is kind of important because if you are feeling any sort of stress or anxiety or depression and you come out of a psychedelic experience, if you're not feeling safe in your body, I feel like it's difficult to ground it into reality, like the integration piece. And this is where like something like acupuncture or shamanic work after the fact can just help to make you feel safe in your body so that you can ground your experience into reality. And so I'll share my personal experience. So I've done psychedelics twice. I'm a newbie. One time I was 19. I feel like that doesn't count because that was just for fun. I was at a Beltane festival. I had no idea what Beltane even was at the time. I just got invited and said, hey, that sounds fun. It was fun, by the way. But I had no idea what I was doing. So I feel like that one doesn't really count. But the most recent one that I did was like recently, like a couple months ago, just over a month ago. I know I talked to you about it. It was recently, right? Yeah, like 2 months ago. And so I'm much more prepared this time. I had a really specific thing that I wanted to get a result with. And I took it really seriously. So like I did a bunch of acupuncture beforehand because I was nervous. I felt like a hot mess actually. So like I'm doing acupuncture on myself to like just, okay, feel safe. You know, I'm trying to walk my talk here. So I'm like feel safe in my body. But when you do shamanic work in particular, this is how my practice works. Like when a person comes to me for shamanic work, they get acupuncture too. It's pretty cool. So like they'll get acupuncture and then I do the shamanic session. And it kind of looks like Reiki, but it's not. I feel like it's a lot more intense than Reiki. But basically I kind of like scan a person's energy field, and shamanic work is all about, like I said, digging up your baggage and all of your shadow stuff so you can pull it out and look at it and see it and deal with it and then get rid of it and then fill yourself back up with something more favorable. So this is what I do on my clients. I like pull stuff out. It usually comes in layers, and we can only do so much in one session because again, the nervous system will freak out if you do too much at once. So we'll clear stuff out, and then cool, you're clear, but you're kind of left open, like there's a void. And so that's when we fill you back up with power. And it almost always comes in the form of a power animal or a spirit animal or totem animal, whatever term you want to use. It's basically a spirit helper in animal form. And it comes to a person when they're lacking a piece of power in their life that they need. And so I love doing power animal retrievals. They're really potent for people. And I always tell people to go into it with like no expectations, because you never know what animal is going to come through. It could be anything from an ant to a unicorn. Like, it could be literally anything. And so that's how shamanic sessions go in my practice. And so like by the time I was doing this on clients, I had already been working on myself for 5 years. So I've already pulled stuff up. I mean, there's always stuff to pull up. Like, it never ends, honestly. But I was already in a place to where I had pulled a lot of stuff up. I have several power animals, actually, just the nature of the work that I do. I have different ones for different purposes. But what I noticed when I did, bringing it back to my recent psychedelic experience, is I felt more calm and grounded because I had done acupuncture beforehand, and I kind of like set a ceremony for myself. But once the medicine started to kick in, my power animal, one of them in particular, was with me the entire time. It was really, really cool. Like, I could feel it right here the whole time. And it was like a guardian, like, because all of your inhibitions are gone, and you're basically, flying in the spirit world, and you never know what's going to happen or what might be attracted to you. So I felt like it was really, really important that I had this power animal with me. And I didn't even necessarily call it to me. I kind of like set the ceremony for the tone of like whatever spiritual guidance I needed would be there. And like, that's just what came through. And I had a moment like before I ventured off into my journey where I thought, like, everybody needs this, and like everybody who's doing psychedelic experiences like needs this, because it's like a safety issue. Like, you kind of need the spiritual protection when you're in the spiritual world. And so it was a really, really cool experience. And when I came out of it, it takes time to integrate. I felt like crap the next day, to be honest, but that's okay. I felt fine the day after. It was like having a bad hangover, but it was fine. And it took a couple weeks of like really integrating it, but I did some more shamanic work on myself afterwards, and then more acupuncture. I think I took some herbs too. I can't remember what I took, some Chinese herbs, because I'm also an herbalist. But it's been really good. I feel like, one, it helped me connect with that power animal a heck of a lot better, because we were on the same plane. Like, it was just easier to do it that way. You can do it in other ways too, but this was just a really cool way to do it. And and then I talked to Andrea about it, and like I've talked about the experience to a couple of other people, but it just kind of got me thinking, like, everybody needs power animals, especially when they're doing this sort of work, like just for a little extra layer of protection, and then just to help. I feel like it helps make the experience a little less jarring. Like, I was able to come back to reality like way easier. Like, it just made the landing a lot smoother. So anyways, that's my recent experience with psychedelics. Like I said, not super experience, but it was really cool. And I was able to kind of like test out my theory. Like, is it helpful to have a power animal going into something like this? Yes, it was. So and then, I was gonna do a demo. You asked me to do a demo, like acupressure?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Before I open the floor to questions.
Do you want me to pen this out?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if there's enough for everybody.
But maybe we can share.
Just take pictures or share or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna show you guys like some of my favorite acupressure points for stress and anxiety relief. I was totally doing these on myself before I came up to the stage just now. And like, these are points you can use on yourself anytime if you're feeling anxious, if you're about to do a talk to a room full of people, or whatever. It's not a cure for anxiety, but it can definitely take the edge off and help you function a little bit better. Or if you're nervous before you're about to do a psychedelic journey, these are helpful points to like ground you into your body. So the first, I have different points on here. What is the first point on there? Is it heart 8?
Yeah.
Heart 8, okay.
Heart 8.
This is like my favorite point. I used to use this all the time when I was in school because I had really bad anxiety when I was in the student clinic. It's on the palm of your hand. So if you make a loose fist, right where your pinky hits, That's heart 8, right here. One side will probably be more tender than the other, like one hand will probably be more tender than the other. And what you can do is you can, I'm gonna set this down. You can really like dig in there, take your thumb and dig, it's sore, right? Yeah. This is a point that goes straight to the heart. It's actually, I use special points when we have seasonal shifts, like we're about to shift into the summer solstice next week, I think. This is one of the points that I use for the summer solstice. So like, it might be extra tender on you right now because it's a fire point on the fire channel, and Phoenix is pretty fire, right? So like, yeah, we're all on the fire. Yeah, this is a really good point for everybody in Phoenix. But yeah, you press on it, you stimulate it. Yeah, you take some deep breaths while you're doing it. It helps. It kind of helps just like reset. You can use your thumb. You can use crystals if you guys have like stones. Yeah, like you can use a crystal to kind of stimulate the point. There's something called ear seeds. I didn't bring any with me, but they're seeds on Band-Aids, and you can put them on points and they stimulate the points without you really needing to do anything. So it's just different ways of doing acupressure on yourself. Yeah, so that's one thing that you can do.
What are the ear seeds made of?
They're called Vicaria seeds.
Vicaria seeds.
And then it's just on like an adhesive, like a Band-Aid. There's all kinds. You could also get like metal, like pellets or magnets or crystals. The crystals are expensive. Like I usually don't buy them because it's just not worth it financially, but they look cool. They're pretty. So that's one point you can do on yourself. Another point you can do is called Kidney 27. It's on the chest, so it's right under the collarbone, and it's about 2 thumb widths out from the sternum, from the center of your chest here. It's probably tender. It's like in the intercostal space, so like in between. There's like a space in between the bones, basically. It's tender on me. I don't know about you guys. I like this point because it's on the torso. So this is a good point to just like ground you back into reality. If you've ever done tapping, EFT, this is one of the points they have you tap, is Kidney 27. So you can do acupressure on it, you can put ear seeds on it, you can stimulate it with crystals, or you can just tap it and breathe. So like, if you're having a bad trip, you could totally do this. I mean, it might irritate you, but it also might just kind of help pull you back into your body. So it's worth giving it a try. Yeah, yeah. And then the last point that I have on there, I think is Shenmen. Is it Shenmen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I don't have that up here with me, I don't know why. It's on the ear. It's called the triangular fossa. It's hard to see on yourself, but you can like look at your neighbor and take a look. It's up at the top of your ear. Like this part of the ear, it looks like a triangle. It's a small point and your fingers are big, so you're gonna cover it just by sticking your finger up there. This is a really good point to put an ear seed. You can buy ear seeds online. They're really cheap. They sell them on Amazon. But yeah, you put it up there and you can leave it on for, if you put an ear seed there, you can leave it on for a couple of days. When you sleep, if you are a side sleeper, it will get stimulated just by laying on your side. It's actually pretty tender a lot of the time. Some people find it uncomfortable, but that's why it's powerful. If it's tender, it means it's working. It means you really need it. This is the one that I like to do on people who are going to be taking a test, or like have test taking anxiety, or just going to court or something like that. Like this is a good thing to do, to just like put some ear seeds there. It helps make you function a little bit better. And yeah, you can also use it during psychedelic experiences, or to help you like ground back in when you're coming out of it. So yeah, so there's some little pointers for you. You can use them whenever. Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah. And then use the mic again. I think that's pretty much it. If I'm open to questions if anybody had anything they wanted to know. Yeah.
So if I was a client and you were doing a shamanic healing, what would it look like to me?
So his question was, if you were a client and wanted to do a shamanic healing, what would it look like? Okay, so you come in, and the session starts off like an acupuncture session. So what that looks like is, I've never met you before, right? So you come in and we do a really thorough health history. And I'll take notes. Part of acupuncture, because I combine acupuncture with shamanism, part of acupuncture is we feel the pulses and we look at the tongue. So that's like part of the diagnostic process. So that kind of helps me, like acupuncture is part of Chinese medicine. It's a holistic medicine. And so we look at the body as a whole. So like we ask a ton of questions. If there's anything in particular that you wanted to work on, like I get into detail about that, like what it is you're looking for relief from or what you're hoping to get out of the session. And then we do the health history. I'll feel your pulses, I'll look at your tongue, and then I'll get you up on the table and I'll do acupuncture based on whatever it is that you want to work on and what I find with the diagnosis. And from there, then the shamanic part comes in. So what I will do is first I create a safe space in the room. So I'll call in the directions. If you're familiar with that, it's just like creating a safe space around the room that we're in and kind of like orienting you in time and space and also honoring just the spirit of the land basically. And then from that point, I will call in any spirit guides or power animals or ancestors or deities, whoever wants to come in to like work with you for the healing. And then we go from there. So then I kind of wander around the room a lot. I have the client just like lay on the table, with the needles, usually with their eyes closed. I tell the client you don't have to do anything other than just be open to receiving whatever healing comes in. And like I said, I walk around a lot because I'm scanning the body. Like I'm kind of like, part of shamanic work is like, I have to work with my spirit guides to like work for you. Like I'm kind of the bridge. So I'll see what I'm seeing. I'll relay the information back to you as I'm picking up stuff. And then I honestly never know what's gonna happen in a shamanic session. It's different for everybody. So typically how it goes down is I'll see stuff in the body that doesn't belong there. So shamanic healing, we work at the spirit level. Like acupuncture works really well at the physical level and like mental, emotional. It can do the spirit level a little bit, but shamanic work is way better for like going deeper and getting to the spirit level of things. So like a lot of times people have ailments that are more spiritual in nature. So that's when shamanism is really good because I can kind of sense it in the body. It looks like things that don't belong there. And we kind of just yank them out. It's kind of, like spiritually, it's kind of aggressive, I guess, for lack of a better word. I'll usually check in with the person to be like, hey, how are you feeling? And sometimes people don't really notice anything. They'll just be like, oh, I feel a little hot or tingly. And sometimes people are really, really aware of what's happening. They're like, oh, you're doing something in this area of my body, right? And I'm like, yeah, like they can tell. So it just depends on the person and like their level of sensitivity or where they're at in their journey. So like it's usually clearing things out because you accumulate traumas and all kinds of things attached to you as you go through life. And they don't necessarily need to be there. So like we start getting rid of stuff that doesn't need to be there. And from that point, we power you up. So then it usually looks like a power animal retrieval for the first session. It could also be other things too. It could be something like a soul retrieval. The theory behind that is when we experience traumas, like when you come into the earthly plane, like when you're born, the theory is that like your soul is whole and complete, and then we go through life and we experience traumas, and it could be anything. Anything could be traumatic. You could be a little kid and you don't get the toy that you want or something. Like it could be something that seems trivial to an adult, but as a child might be very traumatic, And if your soul feels in any way like it's not safe, a little piece of it can break off and just kind of go hide somewhere. And when we do a soul retrieval, it's like we find the soul pieces and we bring them back. And typically, honestly, we all have soul pieces missing. It's kind of just part of life. And I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, soul loss is just kind of a part of life. And so when you do a shamanic session, if a soul piece is ready to come back, like if, oh, I remember what I was gonna say now, sorry about that. If you're ever feeling like you've got weird symptoms or just weird stuff going on that can't be explained by science, or you go to doctors and you have a bunch of tests run and everything's fine, but you don't feel fine, typically that has something to do with soul loss, or there's something spiritual going on usually. It's both good and frustrating, you know, because you're like, okay, cool, I don't have cancer, but I don't feel normal, like there's something wrong here. Usually that's where Western science kind of falls short, is it doesn't really acknowledge the soul in medicine, but shamanism does, and it always has. And so yes, there could be a soul retrieval as part of like powering you up. So yeah, it's a whole series of just like pulling away layers. Like I usually start with like one layer and just see what's coming up. I'll relay the information back to you, clear something. Like I said, I never know what's gonna come up. It's different for every single person, but that's kind of the gist of how it goes. We clear stuff, we fill you up with power. And honestly, for some people, like one session is all they need, and then they're good. And what's interesting is that like the things that unfold for people after the fact, like kind of like doing, you know, psychedelic experiences, it takes time to really process the whole experience. So what I see is usually after a couple weeks to about a month or so, people will really start to see the shift. And sometimes it's subtle and sometimes it's dramatic. Like sometimes people will all of a sudden like leave a relationship that they've been afraid to leave for years, or they'll suddenly move out of state, you know? Yes.
So related to what you were just now saying, what kind of follow-up do you do?
What kind of follow-up?
Yeah.
It depends. So I usually check in with people, you know, like I give people a week or so to like let the dust settle. Especially if it was an intense session and like we cleared a lot of stuff, or if they were just in a rocky place when they came in, like they just might need time to just sit with the experience. I'll check in with them. Sometimes I don't hear back from people at all. Like this doesn't happen very often, but sometimes people just like, they come in for the one session and like, that's it. It's like they got whatever they needed to get from the medicine. But a lot of times people will do some follow-up sessions because we'll realize that what we did in one session was kind of just the tip of the iceberg, and we need to keep going. But like I said earlier, you can only do so much healing in one session before the nervous system is like, and just kind of freaks out. Especially if we're doing something like a soul retrieval, because if a soul piece is going to come back, it needs to feel safe. And if it doesn't feel safe, it'll go away again. So like the safety piece is really important when it comes to shamanic work. You really have to just make sure that you're not doing too much at any given moment, unless the person is ready for that. So does that answer your question? Okay. Yes.
Pose this right. So when I was born, you're talking about birth and stuff like that. When I was born, I had a major surgery that happened. I wasn't in health for the first week, so I was born by my mother and my father, which caused a lot of trauma. That being said, the question I actually have is, because when I do the psychedelics, I really do have great experiences, but what happens is I don't trust my happiness because I have so much shame around being happy and feeling good. So when I start not trusting my happiness, then I get paranoid and then I just freak out. I've had some horrible situations with psychedelics where I've been unconscious and completely like catatonic basically. So yeah, you don't need to impact that. But all I'm asking is, have you had experienced people who have had like psychosis or anything like that?
Have I worked with people who have done psychedelics?
No. Have you had anybody have psychosis while you're doing
Oh, psychosis. During a session?
What?
Or just
Yeah.
yes, I have. I have to be delicate with that. So, thank you for sharing, by the way. So, yes, like you can receive shamanic healing if you have psychosis, but like I said, it's just, I have to be a little bit more delicate. That usually means like I take a more gentle approach. Like I said earlier, sometimes it can be kind of aggressive. It's usually more gentle when I'm working with psychosis, because you just have to be careful. Like you don't want to stir the pot too much. And actually, this is where the acupuncture part is pretty helpful, because that calms the nervous system so that it makes you a little bit more just open to receiving the spiritual part of the healing. But yeah, that would be something that would need to be done gradually and like in layers over time, so that we're not blowing the lid off of everything and creating more problems. Yeah. Yes.
How long is the session?
If you're doing the shamanic acupuncture, the first visit is 2 hours. Follow-ups are 90 minutes. Yeah. Oh, and I always send people home with chocolate. Just, you get a piece of chocolate before you leave so that you kind of ground back into reality. Yes.
I wondered if you could explain like the basics of how acupuncture works, where you put needles in the body, how deep, what it's actually doing at the physical level.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, I'm distracted by this rug here. No, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking. So, what acupuncture does, it stimulates the nervous system. That's the main thing that it does. It activates the vagus nerve, and so what that does is it takes the body out of fight or flight mode. So if you've heard of like sympathetic and parasympathetic before, okay, so it like calms the sympathetic part down, but it like activates the parasympathetic. So usually when people get acupuncture, they either fall asleep on the table or they get really, really relaxed. Or I call it, they go to the drifty place. It's kind of like in between waking and sleeping, which is kind of a nice place to be. But ultimately, what it's also doing is it increases endorphins. It will decrease swelling and inflammation, which is why it's helpful for pain in particular. It can activate your opioid receptors. That's also part of what helps with pain relief and just makes people feel more calm. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that acupuncture does. Like that's kind of the gist of how it works. Basically, when you take a tiny needle and it gets tapped into the skin, it punctures the skin, so it creates a micro tear, and the body activates its natural healing response. So like, the body thinks like, oh, I have an injury. I need to start sending all of my my innate healing response, my healing receptors to this site to like heal the tear. But then as soon as you take the needle out, there's no tear, like there's no hole or anything, like there's nothing to heal, but the healing response is activated. So it just basically helps your body heal itself. Like your body already knows what to do. It just kind of nudges it along. That's ultimately what it does. As far as like where the points are, they're all over the body. There's like over 400 points, head to toe. Which ones we use depend on what the person's coming in for. So it's really like personalized to the individual, depending on what they've got going on and what they want to work on. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Have you ever used acupuncture to release or dissolve fascial knots?
Yes. Sometimes people will ask me if I do dry needling, and my answer is dry needling is acupuncture. It's just done with someone without an acupuncture license, which is a little scary to me, but to each their own. Also, insurance covers dry needling, but that's another topic for a different day. But yes, that's kind of what dry needling is like you can needle into like trigger points and to release fascia. So yes, that's something that acupuncture can help with for sure. It's one of the things that it's really good at. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you do the kind where they like light the needles on fire and all that stuff? that a special thing, or what? I've
It
seen
is.
that.
It's called moxa, or moxibustion, which is a heat therapy. I don't do it in my office, mostly because I have really non-existent ventilation. If I could do it outside, I would, if it was indicated. It is really helpful for pain, especially pain that's worse when it rains or like when it's cold. You know, people can tell it's gonna rain because their joints will start aching. Yeah, moxa would be good for you. Yep. Yeah,
I was
like,
just curious to, like, practical questions. Do you only work out of your office, or are you mobile, and how much does a session cost?
Sure. So I'm typically only in my office. I'll do house calls on occasion, especially if like somebody just had a surgery or something, you know, like can't physically get to me. If we're talking shamanic sessions, I'm trying to remember like how much are my shamanic sessions. The first visit is, okay, so it's 2 hours. It's $175, I think, for the first visit, and then follow-ups are 90 minutes, and those are $150. Yeah, those are $150. If we're doing just acupuncture, the first visit is $130. Those are 90 minutes, and then follow-ups are $100. And then I have slightly different rates for kids, because I work on kids too. Side note, I do shamanic work on kids sometimes. It's really fun. Like I kind of teach them to do their own journey because kids are already receptive and open to this sort of thing. So I kind of just nudge them and like they find their own power animals. It's really cool. So if you ever know a kid who's like open to this sort of thing and wants a little healing, like it's fun to work with them. Yeah. Yeah. Did I see another hand? No.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably not.
Yes.
I'm curious, do children know that it's shamanic work, or how do you introduce that to them?
Usually their parents do. Like it's typically the parents that have either seen me first or they heard about what I do and like they'll talk to their kid about it. And usually it's like typically the kids that are getting shamanic work done are already kind of in the world. Like their parents have already kind of like greased the works
So
for
they're
me.
familiar with it.
Yeah, they're familiar with it. It's kind of age appropriate too. Like it depends on how old they are. Because I've done it for kids as young as 6, I think, but like all the way to teens. So like obviously you talk to a 6-year-old different than you would like a 15-year-old. So for the little kids, we make it more about like, you know, we're just gonna help you find an animal that's gonna help guide you through life. And they really resonate with that. Like you don't really have to tell them more than that. Like their imaginations are still like wide open and they're still innocent, you know? So like they can do a shamanic journey really easily without hardly any assistance. I kind of have them describe what they're seeing to me while they're doing it, so that I can guide them through it, and then it's really cool. For the older kids, yes, I will explain to them like what it is. Like this is shamanic work, like this is what we're gonna be doing. So it depends.
Okay, now I have a question that is kind of a follow-up, but not about children. I'm not real familiar, obviously, with spirit animals. So do spirit animals move with you from one life? Like when you leave this life, do they...
Yeah.
Does that spirit animal, or everybody saying, are they part of the next whatever?
They could be. Typically, power animals are interesting. You can have one power animal that's with you through this whole life. I actually haven't worked with anyone who's had one from a previous life, but I do not doubt that exists. Like I'm sure that exists. Usually with power animals, because they're like kind of raw and primal, we're mostly just focused like on the here and now. But you can have different power animals throughout your life. Like they come to you when you need them for specific purposes. So like you can have one that you just work with for a little bit, and then you might be done with it. Like you've received its medicine. Or you can have one that follows you for your whole life. You could also have multiple different power animals that you kind of use for work with for different purposes. So it depends on the individual. But I have no doubt that some people like have one that follows them for
Probably asked you
lifetimes.
the impossible question, but it
Yeah.
just seems to me that in the name of continuity, that at least in my transition,
Yes,
some.
I can say
Yeah.
that I have an ancestral power animal that's connected through my ancestors, that works with my ancestors and myself. This power animal is aligned with my ancestors.
That was the next question. How do the because I can see the ancestral thing. So yeah, thank you both. That's very helpful.
That's a good point actually, because I forgot. Like my husband's family has a family power.
It's almost
animal.
like a crest.
Yeah,
you can
like
see it on
kinda
family
goes
crest.
down the line.
Same thing. It's your family power animal that
Really?
can come through, and it's from generation to generation. My whole family is protected by this particular guardian power animal, and then there's other animals that will come through depending on what's needed for that healing session, or yeah.
Exactly. Any other questions?
One more question.
Yes.
It's just a proof of concept question. At the beginning of your story, you said that you took Xanax. You still take Xanax?
I never did take Xanax.
Oh, you never took it?
I was
Oh.
prescribed it,
Oh, okay.
and it was a hard no for me.
Right on. That's good.
That being said, I'm not opposed to anybody taking Xanax. Like that was just I didn't want to do that for me. But I have a lot of clients who take it when they need it. So I don't know. I feel like I'm a more open-minded acupuncturist. I feel like we learned to be a little militant in school with like telling people what to do with their bodies, and that never resonated with me. So I'm more of like, you do what's right for you. I'll meet you where you are. That being said, if people who are seeing me are taking Xanax, I could work with them to either come off of it if they want to, or taper the dose down, or just help it work better. Like that's one thing acupuncture is really good at, is if you are taking any sort of medications, it can help the meds work better in your body. So.
What's the name of your
Demo?
Oh, Path of Wellness.
what?
Path of Wellness.
Path of Wellness?
Yeah, I'll have cards. I'll give you a card.
Yeah, I didn't even mention the name of my business. Path of Wellness Acupuncture.
Yes.
Yes, and Healing Arts. So,
Thank you,
Thank
Nicole.
you.